doing jazz. No. No, we're going to highlight the realities of how expensive it is to study jazz and the ROI of it. No, we're just going to talk about our experiences. We both studied in the US and we performed in many different places all around the world. So we'll just be sharing our experiences. I'll basically ask some questions and we'll just chat back and forth, and if anyone wants to ask us questions, you can ask questions as well. So it's pretty interactive.
Okay, and as you guys know, Samad is of course a graduate from Berklee Music College, and he also teaches them. He did some training courses there, so he's like a teacher today. Right? Cikgu, yes. So if you've got any questions, I'm not going to be around, just put your hands up. They're more than happy to answer your questions. Alright, round of applause, ladies and gents.
Thank you so much. Julian, how are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, it's not too early, yeah? Not too early?
No, definitely not.
Not too early, okay.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
How you guys doing? Okay, everyone? Got enough sandwiches? No, not enough sandwiches. I'm afraid I'm the wrong person to ask to belanja sandwich. I'm a musician. Usually we are starving. But today is... See what?
Usually people buy us sandwiches.
Usually people buy sandwiches.
Yeah,
See, he learned from the people around him. He speak in code. Usually people buy us sandwiches.
Yes.
Him.
Him.
So this is really... So this session is called Decoding the Bandstand, Lessons in Jazz and Life from Overseas and Home. So just a little context, so you guys kind of know why we're talking about this. I studied in Malaysia first. I did my first undergraduate degree here at ICOM, and then I went to US to study at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I did my master's at San Jose State University, which is in California. California and weather much better. And Julian, you went to study in New York City. You studied in Queens College. Is that correct?
Actually, before that, for those who, some of you who know before my career, you probably know this, but if you don't, I was actually a accounting major in Curtin University in Malaysia. I actually studied business and accounting. And then when I graduated around mid-2000, I came back and started my music career, or at least I want to try out being a musician full time actually. So, but I did always want to be in the music business, but typical of Asian families, like maybe do something first that you can fall back on or something like that. So I did that. I did my A levels and my accounting degree. I came back and tried my hand at being a full-time musician. Did that for about 7 years. Then I went to New York City, Queens College in New York City, and did my master's in jazz performance. So that was a very fun, very good experience.
It's very interesting because it's kind of different. Like I basically after SPM, I went to college, I did my degree, I gigged for about 2 years or so, and then I went to US, did my undergrad again, second and third degrees, worked for a while, did my master's, and came back. PhD was working throughout that time when I was doing my second and third degree at Berklee. So it's kind of we're coming in from the education part from a different stage of our career at that time. Yeah. So okay, so I wrote a whole bunch of questions. We won't go through all the questions obviously due to time, but I thought better be over prepared. So let's just start off. So with Julian, I'll answer as well. I'm not just a question person, we'll both answer. But when your time during the US, right?
This is much better. Otherwise,
We also have a duo called the Jazz Bromance.
Yep.
So we like to look at each other while playing jazz. So looking back at your time in the US, right? What was the biggest surprise you had? Because you were already performing here, but then you go there. What was different for jazz musician or jazz live or working live or just the scene there? What struck you?
well, I mean, I was already prepared to. I know that the level of musicianship, the music scene, and just arts and culture in general in the US was definitely quite many decades ahead of Malaysia. And because we've been exposed to music quite early on and everything, so we kind of know that, especially talking about jazz music, they play at a very high level. They've been, they're the creators of the music. But what I was not prepared for was how good they are. When I went there, it's like, and I see the way these guys play, it's like, so, they play such a high level all the time. It's, and then when you ask them how many hours they practice a day, they will tell you like, I don't know, anywhere between 8 to 12 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially when they were in university and all that, they practice a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why they play at a very high level. But I think one big thing that really also, I won't say catch me by surprise, but it was more like, it was a very enlightening experience. Was just experiencing the culture of jazz in the US, and particularly in New York City. So I think, I always tell students who want to maybe pursue jazz, to learn more about the music, especially go to New York City and just check out the jazz clubs and just be around musicians, find some teachers to take private lessons with them. Because just to experience that is a learning experience by itself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think when I went to Berklee, right, I already had my undergraduate, so I was, how old was I? I just turned 24 at the time, right? When I went to Berklee. And I think, wherever you're from, right, usually, I guess I was really into music, but I didn't realize how much people were into music, jazz.
They're basically very intense about it,
Yeah, I had one of my friends, Hector, he's from Mexico, he's not even from the States, Hector Rodriguez. And remember, he knows the lineup, the personnel on every album that he likes. He knows who played on what, who mixed it, where this alternate recording of this particular track on a Miles Davis live album. He knew so much detail about the recordings. And I remember, for me, coming from Malaysia, right, around that time, just before I left, I guess, it was probably the tail end of Tower Records.
Okay.
So you buy a CD from Tower Records, it's like 45 ringgit, 80 ringgit at the time. It's very hard to acquire the recordings, just because it was just so expensive. And here, this person knows everything, it was just like,
right.
It was nuts, bro. Talking about what you learned in the US, right? Was there something that you learned when you were there that was difficult to adapt here? It's like something that you're like, okay, you thought this is cool, but then it's hard to make it work here. Maybe a way of thinking or approaching or something like that.
Yeah, it's very culturally different. So that's one of the big things I think is just, first of all, just getting to know what the culture is like in a country that's outside of Indonesia. So in particular jazz music, because it is essentially a Black American music.
Yeah.
It started from Black American roots. We learned about the struggles of African Americans and all that, and how all of that played a part in making, creating the music we know as jazz. And of course, I think for us here, we might find that we don't necessarily relate to it very directly because our experiences are not the same.
Yeah.
But I think it's also really very interesting to know about it, and also if your heart is open enough to sort of learn about it and sort of understand what are the struggles they went through to create this music, and all the cultural undercurrents that led to creating this music. I think having that makes you appreciate the music more. It makes you create in a much more, informed way.
Yeah.
But also with a certain, a certain kind of spirit, I guess. You get from that. I think it's very important if you have a chance to experience that. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it is a huge part of the African American experience. The first time I played with an all African American band, right, in Berklee, wasn't for a jazz session. I actually got an R&B session.
Wow.
So that was a very revealing thing for me because a friend of mine was the I guess the engineer for the session, right? He said, you want to play guitar for this thing? And the good thing about being in college, right, music college, everyone will offer to everyone, like you want to play for this? Yeah, I'll play for this, Doesn't matter what the situation is, because we appreciate the opportunity to try different things.
Yeah.
So I remember I did this session, I came in, everyone else is African American, everyone's black.
Right.
And then I remember so clearly, because I started off playing as classical guitar. So it means that I read music. And then when we were at that session, I remember the first thing they were trying to get is they were trying to get it to feel good.
Yeah.
They were trying to get the music to feel good. And then I remember the bass player was just overplaying all this extra notes. The keyboard player is doing so much. The vocalist doing all these things, And I was just like, wow, this really doesn't sound like a song. But that was the first time I experienced that they were deliberately overplaying to feel comfortable with the music.
Oh, okay.
And then when we tracked it, it was actually much more memorable. But at that point, they just to, not to be afraid of the song.
Yeah.
And that was to me, it was I was like, wow, he's playing so many notes. It's like, is this going to be the recording wasn't like that. But when we first tried to learn the song, it was like that. And I was like, I don't know, it was very revealing because it was a different approach rather than, usually it's like, let's get the notes right, let's make it feel good.
Right.
And this one was like, let's make it feel good, and then let's get the notes right.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. So
It's a very different way of thinking.
It's different.
And a very different way of expressing it. I mean, I want to relate an experience that I had. So, like us were saying, we try to accept any kind of opportunities to play and just learn. So one of the opportunities I had was actually play for a black church, a gospel church.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was something in Queens. And so the guy called me and said, "Hey, you want to play?" I mean, yeah. I said, "Sure, I would love to," because it's also one of those experiences when I was studying for my master's degree. My professor would tell me one of the things that if you want to know about jazz, this culture, you have to go and experience what it's like to be in a black church, gospel church. I mean, I'm not Christian, but I enjoy that. I enjoy that kind of music. So I went to Jamaica and Queens, and just when I went there, the guy just told me, yeah, just go up, whenever you feel like playing, just play. So of course, you get, and one of the experiences that I got from doing that is that it really trains us to just listen to the music and listen to what's going on at the time. Because, in 1 minute at a time, the pastor will be just talking, doing the sermon, and suddenly like, amen, hallelujah, and suddenly the whole band starts playing. And then it's like, okay, you gotta start playing, you gotta see how you fit in the music.
Yeah.
And then, you'll see, the congregation, they'll be singing and clapping and running around the church, and inside the hall of the church. And then suddenly, next thing you know, then the pastor starts talking again, and this goes on for hours. I think I was at that gig for about 3 hours. I was on stage for the entire 3 hours, and they said, if you want to go, you can just go, no problem. It's like,
Wow, so chill.
yeah, it's so chill. So, but you just in that kind of spiritual sense, they said, just let the spirit take over, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I think that really applies to music in general, right? And especially jazz music, where freedom of expression is one of the key things about playing this music is that you have to allow something that you can't really quantify,
Yeah.
to just take over and let yourself play and just let yourself play music. So I think it's part of that experience I really treasure as well, and to experience it firsthand.
Interesting. Very great. Going there and then going to music school, especially at your stage, you did your master's there after you were already gigging. And then, how was it like when you came back and playing gigs after the experience in the US? Did it change? Do you have a different point of view of things or expectations? What changed?
Okay.
Because you were gigging before and after that.
I mean, my entire mindset and also my approach to music actually changed while I was still here.
Oh.
So one of the things that Malaysia in KL we used to have, I mean, some of you to remember, like in Dewan Philharmonic, they used to have foreign musicians and foreign artists used to come in every year at least like 3, 4, or maybe even 5 concerts. Just for jazz or for music. So I had a chance to watch Branford Marsalis Quartet, which is those guys are my heroes. And then I watched them live in the FP, and that completely changed the way I think about music and playing jazz and jazz.
Wow, how so?
Well, I think it's just how they perform. And then when you are there at the concert, and because we are musicians, right? So we always have our learning brain and our ears really open and wide. So every little thing that happens on stage, you're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, they're doing that. Oh, wow. Oh my God, just look at that. What is that guy doing? So that, and to see how much freedom that they are able to have in playing. They could be playing a blues, or they could be playing one of their original compositions, but it's all the little subtleties and musical subtleties that happen on stage that really just changed the way I view playing music, playing jazz. But then in New York City, in America, for example, you just see that firsthand, and you see that all the time.
Yeah.
You see that you go to Smalls or you go to Fat Cat or Blue Note. I mean, Blue Note is very expensive, so I only went there like 2 or 3 times. Yes. But I went to all the smaller clubs. But to see that in action, like practically every night.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go every night, but every opportunity I had to go to watch a jazz show or even any kind of concert in the US.
Yeah.
Even classical music as well it's just a heart-opening experience. I think.
I like that. It's like you said heart-opening experience rather than like eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's I remember at least in Boston, we used to go to. I mean, there's a lot of different places, and because it's over there, it's local, right? So I can go catch Mike Stern for $25, right? I can go there. It's like it's still not local because it lives in New York, but it's still cheaper than like here, like so much more expensive.
I mean, like Mike Stern, I actually went to watch Mike Stern 55, now before 55 Jazz Club, and I think I paid $7 for it or something like that. And he's like doing it right in front of me. So it was a wonderful experience.
It is. I think for me, one of the things is that I feel that every style of music, and I've talked about this before, every style of music has a home, meaning that there's a specific kind of venue or space where the music sounds the best. And I feel like for a lot of the small group jazz, like trios and quartets, right, when you see it in a small room, right, like literally a very small space, and you're like here, and your performer is right there, or the audience is right here in front, right? Because so nearby, and it's just like you really get the energy of how intense the music is, and how it's like, because it's so revealing how dedicated we are to expressing the music. Because you can't hide, there's no playback tracks, there's no real, I don't know, audio mixing to hide anything. People just sound like that. They sound at that level. It's just right there. It's just right there.
And just to bring it back to what you're asking about, how the difference between being there and coming back here. I think the biggest difference is, or rather I would say the experience that I have is in Malaysia, a lot of things don't really change as fast. I mean, you can see that we are kind of I don't say we're behind, but we are slowly picking up a lot of things that maybe is very common in the US, for example, right? So to me it became quite a big adjustment to I experienced these things and it shaped the way I play music and all that. But then when I tried to play,
implement that.
Try to bring that here. You can see there's always a bit of a resistance.
Okay.
Because like when you go to a place like New York and all that, it's intense. It's really intense. You know, the way they play, it's always full on, and like okay. So one example that I can give you is that whenever you see a show, even in a small jazz club or any kind of concert, when you see the performers play, these guys are just going for it. You know, they are not holding back in playing, in expressing themselves. They're just really going for it at every single moment, and they're always really like in the moment and really, you know, playing whatever is going on at the time. But if you do that here, I think some people find it very intimidating or like very shocked about it.
Is it just the intensity?
Yeah, I think it has to do with intensity because I think as Asians we're not used to dealing with or accepting a situation where intensity is part of what we do.
Yeah.
We don't like to. I always feel that we always are afraid to deal with intensity. You know, it's too much. Like I can't deal with it. You know. So that was a big adjustment for me. And it took me many years to sort of realize, you know what, I'm just gonna do me.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna play the way I play just because, like, you know, to hold back is to sort of not give myself to the audience, not be sincere with giving to the audience.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. There was, for me, it was a very clear point. I was in California, I was working with Tarlinda at the time. Tarlinda is an American artist that I was performing with. She's the reason I got to play with Flaco Jimenez and Max Parka and all that, and recorded in Texas. And I remember we were in Northern California, and I just had a point where we were playing, it was like a black stage kind of thing. And I remember talking to the whole time, we were just chit-chatting, right? I said, like, why do we have to, when you watch a show usually the first song is a bit mellow, after that it becomes a bit more intense, after that, like, you know, like about half an hour in the show, it's, you finally like, oh, the band's finally like intense or interesting or something. And I remember talking to them, I said, why do we have to wait half an hour to sound that good? And I remember saying that, why don't we just start from the first downbeat and just the whole show? And I think that was a thing that really changed me, just deciding, and it's coming from watching shows.
Yeah.
And not just watching necessarily like straight ahead jazz shows or like, you know, and mostly the free stuff. You know, when you watch free improvisation, I remember watching, is it Anthony? I think it was Anthony Braxton. Right? The first time I saw Anthony Braxton with his group, and it was at in Boston at I think one of the art museum spaces. But that's where they would play, right? He had this hourglass. He turned it, and they start playing. And when they started, it was just like,
Just full on like.
and it went on for 1 hour. By the time the hourglass, the last beat, stop. Show's done. 1 hour, finish.
Wow, that's a very
It's really, and when they started, and then I was looking, the nerd, right? I was looking at the score, right? They would write like composition 119. After that, they would cue and then go to 117. They have these hand signals,
I see.
and so it would go from composition 119 to 103 to composition 70. They have a big book,
Right.
and Anthony was just cueing them to go to the next piece.
Okay.
And I was just like, how they cue? Because and it doesn't, you know, at some point you like, because it's like, you're like, is this composed? And I look at the score, it's composed.
Right.
A lot of it's written down. These weird notes were all written down, and it was just, and everyone was playing it with so much energy. I was like, and then the most interesting thing is because the music is so weird, right? I was like, who comes and watches this weird music? You know, I was thinking, so I asked the guy next to me, right? I said, hey, because I came alone, I didn't bring my friend, right? No friends, right? I was like, I mean, it's like, even Berklee, you want to get people to go for that, you have to, not everyone wants to go. So I asked this guy next to me, I said like, are you a musician? And he said, no man. I just like the music. I'm just like, wow, you're a normal person like this music. I was like, you exist. And I was so like, wow. And he's just like, he said he's just into it.
It's really amazing how they actually have audiences for all different kinds of styles, all different kinds of mediums of expression.
Exactly.
You know, whether from something which is like, say, swing dance music, and then you got free jazz, and all different spectrums, you just have audiences for it.
Yeah.
They may not be like stadium-sized audience.
Yeah, it might be very small.
Yeah, but there are people who just want to.
They really want to be there. They didn't accidentally end up there. No, it's like, I think I was very, because to me that music, when I heard it, right, I thought this must be music only for nerds, only for musicians. But then I realized that people who were there are not musicians and they like it. So I was just like, wow, this exists, you know. It was so enlightening to me. Talking about performing, because we're talking about studying in the US and exposed to all this. Was there a lesson that you learned from being on stage? Maybe there was a particular gig or something that you're like, wow, you know, I couldn't have learned this in the practice room or in school. Could you share something like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, like a lot of things that I learned about playing and performing music was really from being on stage.
Right on.
Whether or not I'm technically ready, you know. I think one thing I remember thinking when I was in the US is that I actually got a lot of performing experience while I was here.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because I was actually performing a lot for 7 years in festivals, private events, anything. But then one thing I noticed, like when I was in the US, and you know, I mean, unless you are, I'm not talking about headliners here. I'm talking about people like us. And a lot of them don't have. They can play. They play a lot better than I do. But when it comes to performing and you know, being on stage and relating to the audience, actually a lot of them don't have that much experience.
Oh.
It's actually quite interesting. It's I think stage performance, or like just, you know, finding a way to relate to audiences on stage is actually a skill in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because like there's sometimes this impression where, like, you know, depending on where you are in headspace and all that, and then you get a gig in the club, in a club, and then you just play whatever you want and you expect people gonna like it. But that's, like, a lot of times it's not really that way. It's that you still have to invite the audience to come into your world.
Yeah.
And then you can do stuff that, you know, they may or may not like, or maybe they might like some of it, they don't understand some of it. It doesn't really matter, but I think is the skill and the ability to like acknowledge that the audience is there, and, you know, and sort of bring them into your world. Then you can play anything you want and they'll kind of like follow it, you know. So I learned a lot of that from here, but I also learned a bit of that while in the US. And I see like all the great performers, all my heroes that I look up to, they actually have that. You know, especially someone like Branford Marsalis, he's, you know, from the first moment he goes up on stage, I think one of the things that I remember watching when he was here, he didn't play first. He actually like went to the mic and said, "Hey, how you guys doing?" You know, he actually like talks to the audience first, and you know, before he plays, and he introduces the band. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. You know, before I used to like, I'm just gonna go up on stage, they introduce the band, and I'll just play kind of thing. I mean, in certain situations that will work.
Yeah.
But I find that if you take that short moment to just acknowledge the audience, I'm like, okay, then, you know, you already kind of like invite them into your music playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I mean, I don't know if there's anything to do with being in the US, but I do notice that.
Yeah, I think I mean, I was performing a lot when I was here already, and I think that see, the thing is that when you talk about performing, there's actual stage time, being on stage and performing. Then there's the other part, is are you any good when you're performing? That's a different thing. But being on stage allows you to develop that being comfortable in a space where you know people can hear. And I think for me, when I started performing, I got used to playing. This was a very difficult lesson for me to learn. I was so used to performing for a listening audience. Because I started off playing, I played with my dad. My dad's a poet, so he would recite poetry, and I would play guitar and accompany him at his university events. Most of my early performances were at university events, not music events, poetry events. Which is, by the way, I'm writing some poetry and I have something coming out. I don't know when yet. I'll let you guys know when that happens. But performing at those events, right, was a different environment. But it was always in a sense because I'm accompanying my dad. It's like a feature performance, right? So people will be quiet and listen. And then later on, I started doing all these like more restaurant gigs, right, where no one knows me in the audience, and I felt so awkward lah. I don't know. I want to say I diva like that, like throw tantrum. Why people not listening to me? You know? And she saw it. She saw me like, why are you not doing your job? Why are you not performing for people? I was like, no one's listening, but they pay you to perform. It's like,
I think we've all been through that.
I'm like a spoiled. I'm literally. I play jazz, right? So obviously there was some kind of privilege that came from that, given that having that option to do. And so I think, and then the other thing was when I was in US, right? First time I played in Manhattan, in New York City, right? I played Brooklyn, not in the island, right? Yeah. So I played one gig. It was like kind of a restaurant / art gallery. It was cool, chill, a lot of people. Then I played this one Cafe Vivaldi. Remember Cafe Vivaldi? So I have a friend in. See how you get gigs? You find friends who have gigs, and hopefully they like you enough to recommend you to the people that give you gigs. You know, so that's how I got my first gig in New York City. I had the Cafe Vivaldi, and I remember like it's interesting because New York City, they have good music all the time. Why do they want to listen to me? There's absolutely zero reason to listen to me. And so in Malaysia, right, when I performed at that time, I would start off with something more mellow and then build up to something stronger, like the pop, so-called the greatest hits of the song that. And I realized that it didn't work in New York. Because no one cares about you building up because they don't know who you are. Everyone else is better than you, so why would they listen to you or care? That was the point when I realized that in order for me to start a show for an audience that has zero clue who I am, I should start strong. And then later on when I moved to California, I realized that I shouldn't just start strong, I should stay strong the whole show. The whole set should be good. Why should it be like, you go to some places, right? You know the band's easy. You go to a restaurant or hotel, right? You know the band's there like, autumn leaves again. You know, they're not giving, you cannot blame them. But I realized at that point, I made the decision that I have to, if I'm going to perform, and the other thing was I was busking. I was doing outdoor performances. I played at this place in San Francisco. I never brought you to play there, right?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't manage to bring him there. He visited me, but I didn't get into the gig. It was at this place. You guys know Ghirardelli Square? The chocolate place? Right, yeah, Ghirardelli Chocolate. I didn't play there. I played at the Cannery. The Cannery is next door. Ghirardelli Square, a lot of people, because everyone wants to buy chocolate. The Cannery, when I played there, not so popular. There's one place, right, dude, they were selling, the ice cream shop is run by Filipino people, so they have halo and they have all this like designs and stuff. And so my favorite thing going there is actually getting the ice cream or snacks and talking to the Filipino people running the ice cream place. They're the only people that hear me play Freddie the Freelander 4 times.
Wow.
Because I played 3 sets, I think it's like 3 hours. Again, no one cares because audience, tourists, right, come in, maybe they give you $1, then they go off. No one stays very long, but I got to play again and again, the same song.
Oh, nice.
Because the audience keep changing, you can play the same song.
Nice.
Talking about sound, like meaning not just saxophone sound, but your own sound. How was your journey? Already playing here, and then you go to US, you see all these people that you admire, right? And then, did it help you find your own sound, whether it's melodic language or tone or the kind of songs you would play in your own rooms? Like, how did that affect you?
Well, I mean that particular point of discussion really is. I mean, even among many musicians in US and many other countries, that's always a point of debate. There are some people in certain countries they feel like, oh, you should always strive and create original sound. Whereas, like when I talk to some of the jazz elders that I've had the fortune to meet, those guys would say, no, man, your sound just develops over time.
Yeah.
You know, you have to play a lot of different stuff. You find stuff that you like, and somehow, eventually, you'll find something that's you. Because, like your original sound is as original as your voice, as original as the way you talk.
Yeah.
See, but it still takes a journey to get there.
Yeah.
So like I've had the fortune of studying with someone like Antonio Hart,
Yeah.
who he studied and mentored with Mr. Jimmy Key,
Nice.
who is. I mean, if you know anything about jazz, Mr. Jimmy Key was contemporary of John Coltrane, and he was probably a few years younger than Charlie Parker, but Mr. Key actually grew up listening to and watching Charlie Parker play.
Wow.
So these are from that generation of people. And a lot of them used to say was that, when they were growing up, they were just playing music.
Yeah.
They weren't, they were just playing a lot of gigs and they do want to sound original. Actually, it's more like they don't want to sound like anybody else.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about musical sound.
Yeah.
We're talking about like the actual tone that they play.
Yeah.
That's why you get people like Mr. Heath and Sonny Rollins and John Coltrane sounding totally different on the saxophone.
Yeah, very different.
But in terms of like musical identity, I think they develop over a certain level, certain period of time from playing, from playing with different people, and when they play with different musicians, they sound slightly different.
Yeah.
They adapt to the situation. So I think I kind of subscribe to that too. That it's a kind of a lifelong process.
Yeah.
You develop your sound over time from many different things, like playing with different people, or even playing with a certain group of people that you really like. That also helps to form your sound. And of course, writing music, which you do a lot, so you do have your original sound as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't really stop.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when we're talking about this, I hang out with a lot of, because I teach, right? So I meet a lot of younger musicians that I work with or talk to, and it's interesting now because we're such in a, I guess we're in a social media time and an algorithm-based time that when I meet younger musicians, first thing they tell me is not about the music, They said, my music, right? I want to do world building. I want to create this world of sound, and I'm going to make this kind of content and stuff like this.
Right.
And then I'm just like, I just want to sound good. I just want to play. And it's interesting that switch to that it being very marketing based and branding based. They talk about personal branding. They talk about this era of music. I'm gonna make for this album. I'm gonna sound like this and wear these colors, and the music video is gonna be like this. I mean, it's not so much prevalent in jazz. It does happen in jazz, but in pop, especially pop and R&B, it's like such a thing because they grew up watching videos how to get like a lot of plays on Spotify and stuff like that. So anyway, but it's just an interesting discussion because like when you deal with older generation, right, everything's very organic and patient because we're talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years of doing music.
Yeah.
As opposed to I need this first album to pop, man. It's like very different. Anyway, so we have the last 5 minutes, so I'm just gonna jump into probably the last part of it. Here. Okay, we'll do 2 questions really quick. This one we'll do it really quick. Okay.
Speed round.
Okay. Well, actually, then we'll do all 4. Speed round. Okay. When you first started studying abroad, or I guess actually more when you started being a musician, right, and gigging and stuff like that, what is one piece of advice, life advice, not music advice, life advice, you would have like I wish I could give myself this advice, what would be that advice to yourself, your younger self, that you wish you could at that time?
I'll just practice more.
I would say the same thing.
Practice more, and this. I mean, yeah, just practice
I
more.
think
And
it's the
just
same
just
thing.
you know, be intent with what you want to do, and just keep an open mind. Really. Just keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind, practice more. I would agree. I would just say to myself, practice more. And probably right? Because I'm still practicing through the same book I walked through in 1988 now. It's just like now I appreciate it more.
Right.
Yeah, I would say practice more. Those boring books are not as boring as you think, boy.
I have a question.
Next one. Huh?
I have a question. Don't you guys already practice a lot? So you still feel
Oh,
like
Ian, my manager, said, don't you guys practice a lot? And so,
Never enough. There's never enough time. And this is one of the things I always tell young students, especially if they're in university or even in school. I said, this is the best time for you to like spend hours to practice, because that's you don't have to worry about a lot of commitments and earn money or whatever. You just have your day of doing nothing or doing homework, but then just practice.
yeah.
Because once you get to the stage where we are, like
You know how
That's-
many cats
yeah,
he
that's
has
you.
to
That's
take care
you.
of. He got so many cats to take care of now.
But it's kind of like that. It's like when we're working and everything, we just have not enough time to practice. So every little minute I get to practice, I will.
Valuable.
Especially, yeah, it's really valuable.
Really valuable.
Yeah, but again, we've kind of reached a stage where it's not to say that we can afford to do that, but we don't have a choice. But at the same time, we've already did our dues, practice a lot when we were a lot younger, and we reached a certain level where we are more economical and deliberate with our practice.
Yeah.
So we get to do more in less time.
Yeah. I think we were talking about this. I think some people watch because I do a lot of content online. I do a lot of social media content. But I think people don't realize that there's like hours and hours of practice in order to create something very short. That happened before the thing was shot. Not like for the 30 seconds I record 8 hours. It's not that. I've been practicing 8 hours and then I record 30 seconds. It's a very different thing. Okay, second thing. The Malaysian jazz scene, I would say, has changed a lot over the years. Different people, different scenes, different clubs come and go and stuff. Is there anything that you've seen recently that makes you feel optimistic about the future of jazz in Malaysia? God,
You want the friendly question or the?
I want your answer, your honest answer.
To be honest, I do feel it's a bit bleak at the moment.
Why bleak? You got so many gigs, what? You got a big band gig, bro.
That's true. But I need more big band gigs.
Okay, so point taken. Anyone need for your birthday party? You need a big band.
Corporate event.
Corporate event also,
Yeah,
yeah.
a big band. No, but I think it's bleak, but also that means that there's always a room for growth or for things to come back up or to go up again.
Okay.
So I think I always felt that the pandemic kind of like really, did kind of flatten things quite a lot.
Okay.
So now we're in the process of kind of rebuilding things again. So it could be that, I don't really know. Something else.
And so my take on the question, like something optimistic. I think it's nice that people are still playing jazz. I think it's just that I don't think people are practicing enough. Okay. Next question. How has your definition of success changed from when you were younger to now? Like your ideal, what success means to you?
Wow.
Has it changed?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Well, like if I were to say, my dream was to like be a performer and go on stage and play, I've achieved that dream like
Long time.
100 times over.
Nice.
So, I guess what I consider success now is okay. I mean, I think they're just very, very different or varying models of success. If I get to do a good show today, that's some kind of success. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Or if I do a gig or whatever and I get to earn some money from it, that to me is a success as well. So the way I view success is like little victories accumulate into a lifetime of success.
Okay.
I think for me, I'm more interested in like trying to make every little effort a success than trying to think of big success kind of thing.
Yeah, I think my view of success now is twofold. One is having enough money to retire. Number two, sounding good on guitar.
That is a lifelong success.
Yeah, if I got enough money to retire comfortably and I can play very well on guitar, I think I'll be very
Same here.
Okay, last question. Wow, so deep. If there is one, this is the last question, we'll close with this one. So, if there is anything, like the most important lesson you've learned about human nature from being a performer, from being a musician, from studying overseas, basically up to this point in your life, learning about human nature as being from the perspective of a musician, what would that be for you?
I think is to keep an open mind. Definitely have a lot of humility. Not self-deprecating, but just being humble to and stay teachable. I think as we grow older as persons, sometimes we become less teachable and to learn new things.
Yeah.
And there's always a lot of new things to learn, whether it's from things that came before you, for us, and also things that are afterwards. Like you can learn a lot of things from young people.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's really important, and just I don't like to say the word stay positive because that's but I would say really keep an open mind and just accept things with open mind. Some things work, some things doesn't work, and that's cool. Yeah.
I would say for me, I think it's just accepting that the world constantly changes. Like things always change. There's nothing really that stays fixed. So the changing nature of the world, but the fact that every generation, right, like younger musicians or older musicians, every generation goes through the same problems.
That's true.
And goes through the same, I want to say the same delusions. What do people say dilulu, is it? Dilulu is the solulu, which is for anyone here older than 10, it's a delusion is the solution. This is like kind of a, TikTok kind of thing, like dilulu is the solulu. But I think when we're younger, right, I think you need a little bit of delusion to carry you through to have a career, meaning that you're not that good yet, but you have to be confident as if you're good. If not, if you know how bad you are, you will quit music. If you really know how bad you are, you will quit music. So I think delusion is a little bit, but I think as growing older, being more grounded and having less delusion is useful when older, especially.
Yeah.
Not too much until you want to quit and become an accountant or something, but just
nothing wrong with that, by the way.
What?
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong. We're not judging accountants. We all have accountability partners. So anyway, with that, I think.
And I think one thing I want to say also is really just stay true to yourself.
Wow.
I mean, as we go older, we learn more about ourselves a lot more. And just stay true to ourselves. I think and stay sincere. I think that's very important.
I think it's also not just learning about ourselves, but I think coming to terms with what you already knew, but you were like, no lah, I'm not like that. Actually, you realize, I'm like that.
Yeah.
Can she knows she's laughing because she knows how I really am. And then I was like, just coming to terms like, oh yeah, I'm like that. And it's hard because it's like basically, you go through life looking ahead, right? Suddenly, at some point when you realize that someone puts a mirror right in front of you and you realize that I got nose hair. And you're like, I didn't realize that. It's ugly, bro. But if you have nose hair, then you can choose to trim or pull it out. Pulling out is very painful, I don't recommend. So, to all the nose hairs, we might notice. So again, thank you so much, my friend Julian I in the house. We will be performing. If you're already here, you don't have to pay more money to watch the event. You already paid for it. We'll be performing at 3 o'clock, right?
3 p.m.
What's the name of the stage? Stage 1, is it?
Stage 1, I think, is the foyer, where the big stage is.
It's the most number of people on that stage you will see without including the crew. It's all the musicians are performing. How many trumpets?
4 trumpets, 5 saxophones, 4 trombones, and you've got
Rhythm
4
section.
rhythm section.
Yeah. So catch us later
3
3
p.m.
p.m. 3 p.m.
Stage 1.
Stage 1. Julian Chan Jazz Orchestra. I'm As Saman, this is Julian Chan. See you around, enjoy the rest of your day. See you guys, thank you so much.